Kaieteur Radio.
Diana, join me on the Lall Show every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7:20 p.m. and a rebroadcast at 11 a.m. The Lall Show only on Kaieteur Radio, 99.1 and 99.5 FM.
Namaste to you. This is Kaieteur Radio. This is the radio with a difference. It is Friday, September 30th, 2022, and you're listening to us right here on the radio with a difference. It is time for a rebroadcast of the Lall Show. As you know, tonight is the finals for the Caribbean Premier League, and Mr. Lall has gone to the stadium to see if he gets a piece of the alligator tail. In other news, he's back in the Jamaica Tallowers. So this evening, what we will do is bring to you a rebroadcast of a program, the first edition of The Response with his interview with Vice President Barra Jagdeo. We'll bring to you that program where he responded to some of the answers a VP would have given him on the program he had with him, the one-on-one discussion, if you want to call it that. So it's time for that rebroadcast, and encourage you to join us on Monday, the 3rd of October, 2022. It's going to be a bombshell program. You have to stay tuned. And, of course, we wish the Jamaica Tallowers, the team he's backing, all the best in the finals this evening. It is time for that rebroadcast.
Who missed the special program last night? Myself and Vice President Barra Jagdeo spent 2 hours on this radio station discussing a range of issues, including the management and what is there for us in this US $1 trillion oil and gas sector. A number of simple, straightforward questions were posed to him by me, in which he responded to. Uncle and Auntie, knowing how our Vice President always liked to go round and round in circles, I tried to get in all the questions I prepared for him without any rebuttal, to cause a confrontation or give him the opportunity to use up the time in which I could have only asked a limited number of questions. Our Vice President came to the radio station with a lot of pain and hidden anger that he wanted to take out on me. After all, Josh, the man right. Glenn Kande cussing this man every day, exposing his weaknesses, inability and incompetence, making him look bad. And when he gets a chance to let go on him, you expect him to behave like a priest. No, man, no. And that was okay with me last night. I took it in good stride, and I want him to know it's part of the price we pay, or Glenn has to pay, for speaking the truth. From the inception, I knew Guyana was in a very dark tunnel with this ExxonMobil deal. And I know plenty of you feel, and by now would have come to the conclusion, that yes, Guyana is in a dark tunnel where this ExxonMobil deal is concerned. And the answers our Vice President gave last night, Uncle and Auntie, confirm all my fears. Tonight, I want to tell you that I can only turn on the lights in the tunnel for you people. That's all I can do. I cannot lead you out of the tunnel. You have to make that choice whether you want to stay in darkness or come towards light. The light I'm talking about. The true light. The truth. The truth rather than lies and darkness. You got to make that choice. The answers our vice president gave during that one-on-one interview, Uncle and Auntie, was crystal clear in whose interests he's looking out for. And you can bet your last dollar that he's not working for me and you. Tonight, I will play some of the questions I posed to him. You will listen to his answers, and of course, I will respond. Like I said, I did not want to get into any confrontation or tit for tat last night with him. Had I done that, most of the questions I had prepared would have never seen the light of the day, or maybe the moonlight. It would have never. As such, some critics were unhappy with the leeway I give our vice president. I was very happy. I want to say this, I was very happy because I know I would have had my time, my own time to respond, and it begins tonight. Let's get the ball rolling with the first question I posed to our vice president last night. I said to him, when the Exxon production sharing contract was first made public under the APNU AFC government, you were highly critical of the contract. Do you still share those criticisms of the contract, sir? And I will now play that first clip for you guys to hear him. Please. When the Exxon production sharing contract was first made public under the coalition government, you were highly critical of the contract. Do you still share those criticisms of the contract?
I do.
Thank you.
I do.
My second...
And I will tell you now why I maintain the position that the contract is lopsided. We identified several areas. One, the total take for the Guyanese public. We believe that when the contract was renegotiated by Trotman, that we already had 3 billion barrels of proven resources in the ground. And that opportunity should have been used to not to weaken the contract, but the 1999 contract, but to add benefits to it. The contract, if you look at Global Witness report, how the contract was negotiated, it was drafted by Exxon, sent to the government. I don't know what internal process it went through, but it was signed by Trotman almost overnight, contrary to public advice. And I said there are some elements that we are very unhappy with. And I outlined what the elements were.
Thank you.
I don't want to go into the details of that, but we maintain that the contract is lopsided. And we also said consistently in opposition that we will not renegotiate the contract. We will ensure that we have better contract administration. If we fail to have better contract administration and there was no room for that, then we'll take a harder line.
Thank you so much, sir, for that answer. Bernard, I love technology, you know. I love today's technology, auntie and uncle. All of you have to love today's technology. He said they never promised to renegotiate the contract. That's not a lie. That's a huge lie. The last line in their 2020 manifesto that is posted up on to the downstairs of Freedom House. Downstairs of Freedom House, a poster post up there that says, better management / renegotiation of oil contracts to benefit all Guyanese. Uncle and Auntie, for those of you who are joining us on Facebook or YouTube, that poster is on the screen. Please look at it. I have a photograph to show you that took out today. Today. It's still posted there on to today. So when he said they never promised renegotiation, those were the words on that was the last line on the poster in Freedom House today. Better management / renegotiation of all oil contracts to benefit all Guyanese. Can you see it there? It's there? It's there?
Yes.
Thank you. And to reinforce that big lie, here is President Ali himself speaking about renegotiation. That dreaded word they all running away from, like Dracula running away from sunlight, uncle. Please play President Ali's.
The oil contract. Do you agree with the 55 billion signed away global witness report? And will you revisit the oil contract?
We have made it very clear, but we can never agree. How can, I don't think any Guyanese agree with this. No Guyanese, except the government that is defending it. We have made it very clear that we have to go towards looking at these contracts, renegotiating these contracts, looking at contract management, and all of these things. Everything we have to relook at because we have to ensure that our country does not get the wrong end of the stick.
So everything is on the table for review as it relates to oil contracts.
Yes, review and renegotiate.
Review and renegotiate comes from the president of Guyana Mouth. You heard him there. And President Ali, Vice President Ali is telling us they never promised renegotiation of contract. You heard him. He said Trotman should not have weakened the 1999 contract signed by the PPP, but strengthen it and get more benefits in 2016 because ExxonMobil had declared 3 billion barrels of proven reserves. Yes, you heard him. He also said that ExxonMobil prepared a contract and Trotman signed it almost overnight. Yep. He maintains the contract is lopsided and he has identified several areas, one of which is the total take for the Guyanese people and other elements which he doesn't want to go into with details. Later in the conversation, uncle, you guys will hear the spin and merry-go-round he's throwing this country into. My second question to him last night, Mr. Vice President, let us suppose you were in government during the time when the contract was being negotiated. What would you have done differently from what the coalition government did? Could I play that tape and let the people hear him, please? Let us suppose you were in government during the time when the contract was being negotiated. What would you have done differently from what the coalition government did?
Well, it's a greater share of. There are some areas that we have issues with. We have issues with taxation. Even now, we have a dispute with Exxon about vehicles. They wanted to bring in 20 SUVs, and we said that's not covered by the agreement. You have to pay taxes on those. That it's not a blanket concession. But the elements are taxation, ring fencing, the size of the royalty. These are the key elements.
That's it?
Key elements, yeah.
Key elements. Thank you. Uncle, he said, we have issues with taxation, ring fencing, and the size of the royalty. These are the key elements he concerns over. Yes, you heard him. He said he has issues over taxation. And when he was asked about my court case, this is what he said. Listen to him carefully, and you will decide if he really has issued with ExxonMobil not paying taxes in this country. Could you please play that other tape for them to listen? Let me ask this question. What would be your reaction if I am to win the pending tax case I brought against the state and ExxonMobil?
Well, if
that is not my question. That question was sent to me by a Canadian.
yeah,
To you.
but I'm not dealing with hypotheticals. We'll cross that bridge when we can't get there.
You don't have a reaction? As to
No.
whether
I
it's
will cross the bridge when we get there. Yeah.
All right. So then, whose side you on? You
Yeah.
on my side or you on the other side?
I'm not on any side at this time.
Are you sure?
I'm not on any side.
I love the answer.
Yes.
Play back that thing for me, please. Hear him? Let me ask this question. What would be your reaction if I am to win the pending tax case I brought against the state and ExxonMobil?
Well, if
that is not my question. That question was sent to me by a Canadian.
yeah,
To you.
but I'm not dealing with hypotheticals. We'll cross that bridge when we can't get there.
You don't have a reaction? As to
No.
whether it's a
I
win or-
will cross the bridge when we get there. Yeah.
All right. So then, whose side you on? You
Yeah.
on my side or you on the other side?
I'm not on any side at this time.
Are you sure?
I'm not on any side.
I love the answer.
Yes.
Laughing. That question is a joke. This man just said one of the issues he has in the contract is taxation. And I asked him what would be his reaction if I win the tax case against ExxonMobil. What he said, Joshua? I am not dealing with hypotheticals.
When you reach that bridge, you cross it.
We will cross that bridge when we get there. Then I asked him, whose side is he on? He responded, I am not on anybody's side at this time. Does that answer tells a story, Uncle?
It should.
This vice president really got a taxation issue with a contract? Huh? Like I said, I can only turn on the lights in the tunnel. I can't lead you out of it. You have to want to come out that darkness you guys in. Let's turn to another question. That I ask him, if you were the one negotiating the 2016 contract, what royalty rates you would have settled for? Yes, what royalty rates? Listen how he dances around and dodges that simple, straightforward question. What royalty rate you would have asked for if you were in Trotman's place in 2016? I want you to play that tape for the people to hear him. May I just stop you, sir?
Yeah, sure.
Not the new model. I am asking a question Were you there negotiating the 2016 contract?
Yes.
What royalty rate you would have asked for?
So that is precisely what I'm answering.
Okay.
We are currently working on a new PSA. We, as a collective, not the individual Jack Deere, but as a collective, I told you that there are 3 variables that we are utilizing to see how that will govern the new PSA. The first has to do with the company's legitimate expectation that if they invest money, they should get a decent return on their investment. 2, leaving in the new PSA enough incentives to accelerate exploration and production. And 3, a greater share of the benefits for the government. So what we're currently working on, the discussion paper that would have to be completed soon as part of the auction that we had launched later this month. We hope that we can launch it, but it will run for several months and conclude in maybe January, February next year. So the auction would be launched. We have to now have a new PSA to tell people what they're going to get if they come in on this auction. So that's where we have now looked, we've started the study where we are looking at the spectrum on take by different countries. So some countries are on the lower end, and countries like Norway and others, they could get as much as 75% of the total take. Right now, we are getting just over 50% of the total take. So where we move from between 50, 52, 59, whatever you define it as, moving to a higher point will be determined by those variables, how we settle those variables. And then through a combination of adjustments on royalty, maybe profit sharing, and the taxes, we will achieve that.
Thank you.
So this is, I'm just explaining to you, and one thing, Glenn, we need to get clear. The reason I do some of this, because I want people to understand what we're thinking. Many times you're critical of the PPP government, but you've never had Granger, or Granger will never come, or Nagamoto when he was Prime Minister, or Trotman, one day to explain what the thinking was and what they're working on. And I want to take you a bet that the current leader of the opposition will not do this now, come here and sit down and tell you in great detail, because I've seen your attempts to ask him some specific questions and he goes back to general. They will never come and explain this. They will never do that. What I've just told you there, that's the thinking in government. So if I say royalty, well, you should have had a 5% royalty tonight. I'm preempting the discussion, the collective discussion that the cabinet would have. But that is a discussion that has to be had and settled before the end of the year.
Thank you, sir. My question was, what royalty rate you would have asked for negotiating the 2016 contract?
Yeah.
I didn't get an answer for that.
No. I'm just telling you what
Let's move on.
Sure.
Wow. Simple question I asked, what royalty rate you would have asked for if you were in Trotman's place in 2016? The man carry we round the world and bring we back and still didn't answer that simple, straightforward question. But ended up blaming the opposition, asking me why I don't try to get them to come on this program. Wow. Let me ask a simple question. What the opposition has to do with such a simple question? Huh? 3 times I interrupted him and told him that he is not answering my question. He went on to talk about cabinet. He says, I am preempting him. He can't talk about it. Cabinet have to discuss it. What cabinet, uncle, has to do with Lall asking him a simple question as to what royalty rates he would have demanded from ExxonMobil had he been the one negotiating the Trotman contract. You want to tell me 6 years and the ex-president of this country, now the vice president of this land, heading this oil sector, this financial guru, hasn't come up in his mind what royalty Guyana should have gotten as a reasonable share, man? Huh? Somebody pulling my leg under the table. Or am I feeling dizzy, man? Huh? Something in the radio room? You people serious? Really? You still got to go to cabinet to determine what royalty rates Guyana need for the new contracts too? After all this ruckus that going on in this country about this ExxonMobil deal? Come on, Guyana. No, man, don't do this to yourself. Don't do this to yourself. Like I said, I can only turn on the lights for you people in the dark tunnel. Please open your eyes and come out of that darkness. He finished without answering that question. This is the vice president y'all have running this US $1 trillion oil industry. Like I said again, I can only turn on the lights in the tunnel. I can't hold your hands and lead you out. Please, please. This man begins by saying it's a lopsided contract that they would have never signed on to. In his own words, you heard him speak about ring fencing, taxation, and royalty. And here we are, 2 years into his leadership. He is still ashamed to tell this nation what percentage of royalty he would have negotiated for when he cussing the coalition for that same contract. You really believe, Bernard, you really believe the cuss is coming from his heart?
Hell no.
Huh? I don't think so. I think he's the biggest supporter of that lopsided contract. That is a noose around the necks of every Guyanese in this country, bro.
Definitely.
Well, let's move on. Let's move on to another question. I asked him what percentage of profit sharing he would have negotiated for Guyana in that same 2016 contract Trotman signed. I want you listen, uncle and auntie, listen carefully to him again and tell me if he answered that simple question I asked. Could we play that tape again, please? Let's move on. Let's move on.
Sure.
What percentage of profit sharing would you have been, in your mind, would have been fair to the Guyanese people in the same 2016?
Yes, but
contract?
I just explained all of this. It's derived from where you start. What is the total take you want? If it's 52% or 60% of the proceeds, then you adjust each variable. You can still keep the royalty at 2% and take it on the taxes, or lower the taxes, keep the taxes where they are and take a higher royalty and achieve the same purpose. So it is not, it is like you're asking me now a question that where we want to be ultimately.
Where you would have been.
I believe that the country should be getting a higher take. That is, but that has to be through a combination of variables. But I'm not gonna, like tonight, say 25%. This has to be done by the technical people.
No, my question is 2016 contract
Yeah.
that you criticize. My question, what percentage of profit sharing and royalty would have been reasonable in your mind?
Yes.
That's
right.
something already gone. Hey, hello, uncle. You see what a joy I have in my heart tonight? And last night, as he was speaking, I could have only smiled. You know, I could have only smiled as he was speaking last night. The only answer he gave dear uncle was that he believed the country should have a bigger take, bigger share. He didn't put a figure. And let me ask all Guyana this. Has he done anything so far to increase the profit share with ExxonMobil? Huh? And let's move on to the next question, please. I ask him if ExxonMobil should be walking away without paying any taxes. And if he agreed that Guyana pays the taxes for the oil companies. Please, Uncle and Auntie, again, simple question. Listen to the head of this US $1 trillion oil sector we have in this country. Listen to him carefully. Simple questions. Please, go ahead. Let's move on to this. One second.
So,
what about taxes?
yes.
Should the coalition have demanded the payment of corporation taxes, and should we be paying the taxes for the oil companies?
But again, taxes, if you agree that we will get 50% of the profit oil, which is part of the legislation, and then 2% royalty, and that's the total take. If you increase taxes, then you have to go for a higher take. So it's all derived from what the ultimate, where you want to ultimately be. So if you say 60%, that should be the total 60-40 split of the proceeds. Then you can do it, achieve that through different measures. You can achieve it through either higher royalty and leaving the taxes the same way, give them all the tax approvals, or give them, demand more taxes and leave the royalty at 2%, or a combination of the two, or change the profit sharing formula. So these are all derived things, and that's why it's more complex than just saying, oh, it has to be this. So when people say...
Sir, one second.
Yeah, sure.
My question is very simple to you. Should the coalition have demanded the payment of corporation taxes? And should we be paying the oil company taxes? Simple.
No, but the thing is that if you charge corporate tax now on it, frankly
my
speaking...
My question is,
frankly, no.
That's my question.
I don't think... Personally, I do not think that corporate tax... We have given corporate tax waiver to almost every, in bauxite industry, in almost every sector. So if you demand corporate tax payment now, then, and a third, maybe 28%, what would that have resulted in? It would probably resulted in maybe a 60% share or something like that. I don't know what the number is.
Can we let's move on. would you have agreed to all those concessions which were granted to the oil companies?
Now,
Well, I'm
in
talking about the
2015,
2016 contract that the
and we
coalition
may-
government signed.
we may
I am
ver-
asking you about what the coalition government signed on
Let
to.
me tell you.
You said you
Yes.
totally disagree. It's a bad deal. I'm asking you, simple, if you would have agreed to all these things that were granted to the oil companies.
I would have sought a higher
Thank
share.
you. Thank you.
A higher share, but I don't.
Please, you made a slight error there, Uncle. That's another question. He went on to talk and they didn't cut it right. So I apologize for that. Let's deal with the question I asked him. Twice I had asked him to answer a simple question whether ExxonMobil should be walking away without paying taxes in this country. And if Guyana should be paying their share of taxes out of we profits. In short, you listen to him there. Everything he said there, he is in support of Trotman's lopsided contract to have ExxonMobil walk away with everything without paying any taxes. Oil companies that making money, more money than God Almighty, and not Glenn Lall saying that. The President of the United States, Mr. Joseph Biden, said that, is not paying taxes in this country. Could you believe that? When a security guard, Uncle, a man who cleaning the drains, a teacher, a nurse, a police officer have to pay every single cent taxes. Is this real? What we're witnessing in this land today? Uncle? That you have an oil company that's making more money than God Almighty. And you ask a president, a vice president running the sector, if it is fair for them not to pay taxes. And we pay their taxes out of our little profit. Is that fair, man? If a Guyanese, if me or you pick up an ounce of gold in the back dam, we got to pay a fair amount of royalties and taxes. Even a Guyanese working on the oil ship out there, pulling up the oil, has to pay their fair share of taxes. Man, you want to tell me these Guyanese, we Guyanese who own the oil, have to pay their fair share of taxes, and the foreigners who fetching it away free, it's okay to walk away without paying any taxes, man? Huh? Wow. Do I still need to turn on the lights and hold your hands to walk you out of this dark tunnel, Uncle and Auntie? Then he ended by saying, I can't say that because it could have been through several measures. It could have been leaving the taxes, all the taxes intact, and as they now have, and increase the royalty rate, or alternately maybe charging the lower royalty rate and not giving all the tax benefits that they got. But the end result would have been a greater share of taxes or profits to the Guyanese people. You know, I am so tired of listening to this thing, just play back that tape for me, man. Just play back, let the people hear him back again. Let's move on to this. What about one second. What about taxes?
Yes.
Should the coalition have demanded the payment of corporation taxes, and should we be paying the taxes for the oil companies?
But again, taxes, if you agree that we will get 50% of the profit oil, which is part of the legislation, and then 2% royalty, and that's the total take. If you increase taxes then you have to go for a higher take. So it's all derived from what the ultimate, where you want to ultimately be. So if you say 60%, that should be the total 60-40 split of the proceeds, then you can do it, achieve that through different measures. You can achieve it through either higher royalty and leaving the taxes the same way, give them all the tax approvals, or give them, demand more taxes and leave the royalty at 2%, or a combination of the two, or change the profit sharing formula. So these are all derived things, and that's why it's more complex than just saying, oh, it has to be this. So when people say...
Sir, one second.
Yeah, sure.
My question is very simple to you. Should the coalition have demanded the payment of corporation taxes? And should we be paying the oil company taxes? Simple.
No, but the thing is that if you charge corporate tax now on it, frankly
my
speaking...
My question is, should have...
Frankly, no.
That's my question.
I don't think... Personally, I do not think that corporate tax... We have given corporate tax waiver to almost every, in bauxite industry, in almost every sector. So if you demand corporate tax payment now, then, and a third, maybe 28%, what would that have resulted in? It will probably resulted in maybe a 60% share or something like that. I don't know what the number is.
Can we let's move on. Would you have agreed to all this? Just so. Uncle and Auntie, is what game this man playing on a simple, straightforward question? Why ExxonMobil should be allowed to walk away with paying taxes? You people understand anything he said there? You people understand what he said there? Bernard, did you understand what the man trying to tell this nation there?
Not at all.
Could we play the next question that I asked him, please? What about ring fencing, sir?
Yes, there would have been...
Would you have made that a priority if you were there negotiating the 2016
Ring fencing would have been adjusted, but I said to what extent, I can't say tonight, but that is one of the things that would have been adjusted.
Oh, you have another tape? Play it, please. Ring fencing. Ring fencing. Uncle, would you have made that a priority? Would you have made that a priority? Could you play back that thing for me, please? I want to play back that piece of tape. What about ring fencing, sir?
Yes, there would have been...
Would you have made that a priority if you were there negotiating the 2016
Ring fencing would have been adjusted, but I said to what extent, I can't say tonight, but that is one of the things that would have been adjusted.
What a Guyana we have here. What a Guyana we have here. Ring fencing, Uncle. Would you have made that a priority? What he said? Ring fencing, Uncle, would have been adjusted, but I can't say to what extent tonight. But that was one of the things that would have been adjusted had he been there. I want to end tonight's program, Uncle and Auntie. Yes, I want to end it by telling all of you the two most important aspects of this oil sector to secure our benefits, our livelihood, our future is bent on checking and verifying all costs whatsoever. And that two words That two words called ring fencing. Uncle, my gosh. Without ring fencing, uncle, and verifying those costs out there, Guyana is doomed. Guyana is doomed. I will continue this program on Friday for you to hear much more of the games this vice president is playing that puts Guyana's present and future generations in real danger, extreme danger. You heard I asked him what he would have done if he was in Trackman's place, what royalty rates he would have seek for Guyana. He couldn't give us an answer. But they've been cussing, since he was in opposition, he'd been cussing the coalition government about this bad deal. He couldn't answer that. I asked him what percentage of profit share he would have eked out for Guyana. He danced all over the place and could not answer. We talked about ring fencing. He said that would have been a priority, but he doesn't have an answer for that too. And I talked about many other things that last night that you would hear him and the answers he gave and how he gave it. But this is your vice president. And like I said, I didn't want not to pick up the topic of last night tonight and give you guys a rebroadcast. I wanted to give you a little taste of what he said and let you see the danger that Guyana faces. You know, after that program last night, we had a cordial discussion over coffee in my office. Apart from the vice president and myself, there were others in the office, a minister and others. Lo and behold, someone sent me a photo with a caption that said, Jagdale School Glen Lall on his blackboard. I find that private moment and discussion reaching on Facebook with half-truth, very disrespectful and distasteful, my friend. The picture shows Vice President writing on my blackboard and Glen Lall watching. Can you put a picture up if you have it? Put it there. What I didn't put out was the picture in which I was responding on the blackboard to the Vice President, and he was looking on. Nevertheless, it's all in the game. Yep. And I am would never be too big to learn something. Whether who teaches me. I believe knowledge is wealth, and a fool that put it up should have taken notice and learned something rather than put something like that on the internet. It appeared on that clown page. He was with us too. And before I say good night and God bless you guys, let me share this with you. A Facebook page, someone made a comment, a critique, and say Glenn is a dunce, and spell the dunce D-I-N-C-E. I couldn't help crack up. Glenn is a D-I-N-C-E. And someone responded to the individual and said, before you study Glenn, you should study the dictionary. With that, I say namaste once again. Good night and God bless. Until Friday, God spare life. I'm going to take 2 or 3 phone calls and call it a day. Thanks for listening.